Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tales from the Infrared. I am your host, Christian Chesso, and joining me, as always, is the fat neckbeard, Dean Esme. How's it going, Dean? You're muted, Dean.
I appear to have been muted, and it must be somebody's fault other than mine, that's for sure. Hello?
Hello. We can hear you.
Oh, okay, good.
Jim Kelvarn. How's it going, Jim?
Oh, I just finished my coffee, and I got my ab workout from Gigi in DC last night.
Rachel Edwards, our resident honey badger. How's it going, Rachel?
Pretty good. I mean, last night the fun on Twitter was the bomb.
Yes.
And I woke up to it this morning. I did the horrible thing and actually went to bed early. Oh, I'll never do that again.
Someone set us up the bomb. We get signal.
And guess who's back? Back again. Yes, he's back. Nephenor of Thrall. How's it going, Nephenor?
Will the real alien please stand up? Please stand up. Please stand up.
So who lost the coin toss? Who rolled the natural?
Rachel.
Rachel, read our topics.
The dice were not with me this week. Okay, wait, hold on. All right. It's really dry in South Carolina. Steam now allows game developers to ban users from their games? What? If you have ever put a foot in the online gaming community since Ultima Online, you'll know that cheating is a thing, and it's a huge problem. Many games implement their own system to face the problem. Valve, for example, has VAC. When someone is caught cheating, usually the way to go is a ban. Not all developers, especially the small ones, have a means to implement or buy an anti-cheating system or to enforce a ban. Valve wants to try to offer a solution for the latter problem by giving all the developers the option to have Steam prevent misbehaving users to launch their game. So you're saying that paying a customer that takes advantage of problems with how you create your game are going to get banned? Kind of bullshit, in my opinion. Next story. Did NASA just accidentally produce a warp bubble? M-Drive could lead to warp drive. NASA scientists working on a project called M-Drive have accidentally stumbled upon something that will send science fiction junkies into a frenzy. The possibility of a real-life warp drive has been placed on the table thanks to readings that indicate that M-Drive's resonance chamber sent beams traveling faster than the speed of light, which would be considered warp speed. Researchers have considered the possibility of traveling faster than the speed of light, but until the recent NASA study, the feat had never been achieved. The new Grand Theft Auto lets you have realistic sex with prostitutes. I really can't believe this. I know the article is a bit old, but it was just so damn stupid. It bears berating again. We have previously covered this topic, but it's gaining steam again. And we need to point out the obvious. It isn't rape if there is no actual penetration. What? Wait, the days of WoW-style MMO are over. H1Z1 boss says. The days of MMOs in the vein of World of Warcraft are over. That's according to John Smedley, the president of Daybreak Games, previously known as Sony Online Entertainment, before it split off from the PlayStation company back in February. He tells Games Industry International in a wide-ranging interview that the way people play games has changed, and games like WoW aren't long for this world. However, looking at Smedley's track record of successes with games, I would say that he's going to be quite surprised when he realizes his company tanks. Miss Piggy, extraordinary puppet, to receive award for feminism. Oh gods. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Are they trolling us with this article? Let's put aside the fact that Miss Piggy is not even human. Let's put aside the fact that Miss Piggy is voiced by Frank Oz, a man. Let's even put aside the fact that Miss Piggy is puppeted by several different people, most of whom are men. Miss Piggy is a violent sociopath and a complete narcissist. And this is the ideal of a feminist in their minds? Arthur Chu is ending GamerGate tonight. Well, technically tomorrow. Last night. Literally, Chu has gone Baden Macintosh. First, he starts by making what could be considered a veiled threat to GamerGate members who are meeting up in DC. Then he decides to appear to backtrack with a tweet that seems to suggest talking things out with GamerGaters. When will Literally Chu figure out that the stupid is strong in him? Gemma Redgrave's Kate Stewart returns for 2 Doctor Who episodes this season. BBC America released a video announcing Gemma Redgrave's character unit, Kate Stewart, returned for 2 episodes of the 9th season of Doctor Who. The last time we saw Kate Lethbridge Stewart was in the season finale of the 8th season of Doctor Who, when she was saved by her cyberfather. Game of Thrones Season 5 synopsis for episode 4 to 8. HBO has let loose with some ideas of what is to come in the next few episodes of Game of Thrones. While none of the information is all that revealing, it leads the mind to guessing what is coming for the hit series. All of this and more on this week's Tales from the Infrared.
Where are we starting? Where are we starting?
Arthur, literally Chu. Literally
Chu.
Chu. We have to.
Or who I've been calling Fire Lord Chu.
Fire Lord Chu.
Can I just say this before we start? Arthur Chu seems to be insane, and he seems to be trying to tip his hat in with the likes of Anita Sarkeesian and Brianna Wu, and he wants to compete with them in the harassment/oppression Olympics. But there's one problem, though. He has a dick, and so he's immediately disqualified.
I'm just astounded.
He has a dick, or he is a dick?
What he's saying is that he'll never be respected by social justice warriors because he has a dick. He probably thinks his the fact that he is Asian makes him auto-accepted by them. But no. We know, I'm sorry, we shouldn't make everything about these fuckers as individuals, but seriously, Arthur Chu has a history as a white supremacist, and I am going to say this publicly. I think he still is one. That's why he hangs out with the social justice crowd. That's what I think. And if Arthur thinks I'm wrong, let him tell me why. Anybody else?
Oh, I have some interesting things on this topic, because first off he says to GamerGaters, either way, it ends tonight. It ends, and I'm sure people have memed the hell out of this, and we were all saying, oh, well, what's he going to do? Oh, well, he could, if all else fails, he could call the cops. And what actually happened? Cops are called, but not because of some kind of just random thing like, oh, they're being unlawful, but because somebody has called in a death threat. And in fact, if some of the things on 8chan are to be believed, multiple threats. So we don't know if he himself has called in the threats, but he's going to be, the first person they're going to call up. The FBI is going to call up.
I think it's important that we take a couple of steps back here and actually explain what's going on for our listeners.
Yep.
In D.C., in the Washington, D.C. area, there was an event, sort of an event. It was like a...
It was a meetup of
It was a meetup at a bar. It was a meetup of GamerGaters at a bar. And GamerGaters, it wasn't just GamerGaters, it was also individuals like Christina Hoff Summers attended, Milo Yiannopoulos attended,
Kathy Young,
Just Lizzie.
It was a meetup in a bar in the DC area, and Arthur Chu tweeted out sort of like a veiled threat saying, either way, it ends tonight. And then what happened was, apparently, the bar got a bomb threat. Bomb threat.
Well, not only that...
Now, here's the funny part about that. The bar is literally right around the corner from both the police and the fire in D.C.
Oh, not only just that. I mean, here's another thing. They actually tried to send emails in to say, like, oh my gosh, there's a hate group that's coming to the bar, and we need to shut it down. And people were calling on the phone, blowing up the phone. with calls of like you gotta stop this. Oh my gosh! It's like, these people hate women and blah. But what they don't understand is that there's over there were over 300 people. They couldn't not everybody could actually get into the bar. There were so many people there coming there for the meetup. So to kick them out would
remember,
be...
GamerGate is only 300 people.
I know, right?
Yeah, everything else is sock puppets.
Mm.
I'm actually curious, how many people were there? Do we ever get an estimate on that one?
Well, they said over 300 because
I'll take that. I'll take that as a given.
At least enough so that there were people who were not even able to get in. They were outside on the street.
Yeah.
Hoping that they could get in.
That's kind of a big deal then. And in any case, okay, we know. I mean, I predict this. If the press is forced to cover this story, they're going to try hard to suggest that somebody in GamerGate did this. Now,
they've already tried.
In all honesty, we cannot exclude that as a possibility. Although it strikes me as unlikely, it could be. We'll find out. Well-meaning GamerGater, or even stupid GamerGater, just thought this will get. It's a bad idea though, and it's probably not. So.
Well, here's the thing. This is D.C., the home of the FBI.
I know.
They are not going to take this lying down.
I don't know.
How dumb do you have to be?
They could possibly say this is a matter for D.C. police. We're not worried about it.
Well, no, Dean. Here's the thing. Washington D.C. is a federal
zone. I know that Washington D.C. is a federal zone. It is not. Yeah, it is not in any state. Therefore, it is under direct federal, oversight. However, they do have an elected mayor and city council, and taxes that people who live in Washington pay for those cops. And so it is very possible, although it would be wrong, it is very possible for FBI to say, you know what, this is a local matter, we're not going to worry about it.
That's only if it's if it came from inside Washington, D.C. If it came from outside, it was a threat called across state lines.
Yeah, and that becomes a federal matter. It has to. At minimum, Washington, D.C. police will be asking the FBI for help. You're right there.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever thought this was a good idea, I'm pretty convinced it's a GamerGate hater, and I'm also pretty convinced they're just this stupid. They really think this will work. They really think this is a blow for righteousness, and that it's going to silence us. And that's crazy. When anybody who understands human psychology knows the exact opposite is what's going to happen.
I believe it's called the
Streisand effect.
The Streisand effect, yes.
I mean, we've seen this pattern of behavior out of feminists and social justice warriors before. Now, I can tell you from talking to people like Erin Pitsey, I know I drop her name a lot because I do a show with her, but, all kinds of researchers, journalists who were critical of feminist ideology 30 years ago who were getting put through this. The men's rights movement, or the men's issues movement, even if you don't like the men's rights, the modern movement saw this start in, was it 2012 when Warren Farrell was, when they were barricading Warren Farrell?
November 2012.
Okay, so that's 2.5 years. Things had happened before that, but we were fortunate we got that on camera, and then we have seen over and over again multiple events at multiple universities shut down. What happened to Rachel and the Badgers at Calgary? Just in the Calgary Expo, just a week or two ago. I've lost track, But that wasn't alone. In fact, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, but I sometimes think, oh, the Badgers just got a taste of what we got in Detroit, because they did it in Detroit. Not only did they call in threats to the hotel and get us thrown out, and then try to claim we made the threats when we didn't, but then they actually, a feminist group, a named feminist group, I'm not going to name them right now, but I've named them publicly. Oh, I will. Haven Services. Actually not only called every member of the board at the VFW we were at, but also called and wrote every member of the women's auxiliary of that VFW to try and talk them into throwing us out. The only reason we went forward is because the people in charge of the Post, being veterans, have this thing about free speech and the First Amendment, and we died for that shit, or we got our legs blown off for this shit. Fuck you. Well, we lucked out there. We really did. If things had gone a little bit different back last June, we would have been telling everybody 3 days before the conference, we got to find money for a refund for you. It was that bad. We looked into that thanks to basically a network of MRA supporters who helped us find that VFW. But even then, they weren't content to stop chasing us. They tried to get us really hard, tried to get us thrown out of that VFW. The next strike was Calgary, and everybody's been talking about Calgary on Calgary Expo on Twitter, and hopefully there, we're going to see some justice there because the legal fund, from what I understand, is doing well. But Calgary wasn't even the end of it. Here we go, Washington fucking D.C. They won't stop anywhere. What's next? They're going to bomb the United Nations? What is wrong with them? Do they not see? I don't know. This is stupidity because it's going to hurt them because they don't control the narrative anymore. Do you hear what I'm saying? We have media. We have social media. We have rebel websites. We have GamerGate. We have...
Not your shield.
What we are watching is an establishment crumbling and desperate to stop it from happening. I truly believe that. Mind you, they could still win, but I truly believe that's what we're looking at. This is a fear reaction from an establishment that doesn't know what to do because they know their days are numbered. And they are. Because what... Go ahead. Somebody respond to that.
Well, they don't really know what to do with us, to be perfectly honest. Usually when you have a group of people, what they try to do is at least one political end of the spectrum or one political group decides to try and take advantage of it. And really they don't really know what to do with groups like GamerGate or the men's movement because you don't really fit into any of their narratives because there's so many diverse different people in those groups. And of course they'll try to paint it as conservative or liberal or whatever it tends to be most beneficial to them in that moment, but they don't know how to use us in a way that is beneficial, so they just choose to demonize us instead.
Well, it follows Alinsky's rules for radicals. I think it's number 5. Ridicule the hell out of your opponents, and that's what they do every chance they get. And people are starting to understand that while it used to work, it doesn't work so well anymore with a group of people who are used to being ridiculed, who are used to being abused, who are used to being shit on for just liking something that most people don't really give a shit about.
Also, it looks bad when you're kicking somebody who is very obviously the person who is, I don't want to say necessarily the underdog, but in some situations, I mean, you're always going to look like an asshole. Like, for example, when people try to speak against Hot Wheels on 8chan, he is crippled. He is a crippled man in a wheelchair. And there's no way that you can say shit about him without looking like a complete asshole. And that's what's happening here. They're trying to run their narratives on people who don't fall under that narrative. No?
Yeah, I mean, they honestly don't know what to do with us, and their ridicule isn't working anymore because what do we do on the internet when somebody just starts ridiculing illogically? Call them a troll and ignore them.
Well, unfortunately, that's worked for everybody else in the mainstream. That works for anybody in real life, but for GamerGate, it's like, yeah, whatever, and we'll make fun of you with memes by calling you Fire Lord for calling in bomb threats and other things like that. I mean, it's become an amusement for those of us in GamerGate.
But let's be clear here. I don't think the FBI in this case is just going to say, well, leave it to the local police department.
No.
This is this is a bomb threat in D.C. I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to label this a terrorist threat, and honestly, I hope whoever called in the bomb threat, and whoever it was, I don't care if it's anti-GG, if it's GG, I don't care who it
Or
is.
third-party trolls.
Whoever called in the threat, I hope that they are found. I hope they're caught. However, I don't want them. I don't want them to just be seen as terrorists and thrown in G-Bay, because let's face it, this was obviously targeted at GamerGaters. This was not, this is not Boko Haram. This is not ISIS. This is not Al Qaeda. This is, this was specifically targeted at GamerGate, and so I just hope that they're caught and found and just tried accordingly.
Now, I'd like to point something out, too. If we look at the reactions, when anti-GamerGate got threats, they open up their Patreon, they say, please donate to my Patreon, help me, help me, help me. And they say, I've been driven from my home. And what was GamerGate doing? They were standing outside the bar, laughing, making jokes, and then when they got back in, they got drinks, and they went back to their partying.
Yeah, how long were they searching the place for? Like, how long was everybody?
Like 20 minutes, an hour, somewhere around there. It wasn't that long.
Yeah. But basically, when the social justice people, when they have these threats lobbed against them, it's like the episode of Powerpuff Girls. Oh, I'm oppressed. And
here's the
when
thing,
we do it,
here's
it's
the
like
thing,
go back
and
to drinking.
This is what I find to be very, very important in this case, is that even though the threat was not credible, it was still a bomb threat. Okay, there's a difference between threatening to beat somebody up or threatening to stab someone and then calling in a bomb threat at a public establishment. A bomb threat, whether it's found not credible or not, it's illegal, and police forces take that shit seriously.
Yeah. And everybody was just, chilling and having a good time, but everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
You mean the Fire Chief?
Yeah, the
Fire Lord 2.
Yeah, oh shit. There we go.
Like I said, this gave me my ab workout last night. I was laughing.
Just remember, it ends tonight.
It ends tonight, guys. It's all over. It was over. This is the thing that's like, what is Chu doing that? And I actually, did anybody run the timeline to see if he tweeted that before or after the bomb threat?
It was before.
Way before. Hours before. It wasn't just...
Okay. No, I was about to say he's guilty of something. No, because he could just be guilty of being an idiot. But that, yeah, the law enforcement really needs to look at this. But I will say, I have friends and family in law enforcement, and I can tell you that above a certain level, it's a sad reality that everything that police do is still political. And elected officials and other bureaucrats may indeed exert pressure to say, you know what, this is not a big deal. Don't make a big case out of it.
Well, what has to happen? What has to happen before people stop ignoring these sorts of things? I mean, how big does it have to get before
That's a fascinating question, and I don't have a clear answer, but I do know the more people refuse to shut up, the more likely something will happen that needs to happen.
I think that the likeliness of it getting so big that people can't ignore it will grow the more GamerGaters you get in one place. Because we only had, maybe tops, we had like a little over 300, or maybe even a little more than that. But if you were to get, if people were hypothetically to make their own convention with blackjack and hookers, what would you? Well, maybe not literal blackjack and hookers, but you know what I mean.
The convention and the blackjack.
Yeah.
Well, I will be honest. If they decide to come out to Los Angeles, first round's on me if Milo shows up.
Maybe we should throw of course, we're all over the continent. We should throw a GamerGate get-together. Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh, yeah.
It would be
No,
fun,
but
but you also have to bear in mind just the logistics of it, the cost, the work.
Oh,
I mean, you know
I know.
Being a lead organizer at for the ICMI, how much shit is involved in organizing something
Well,
like
not
that.
even just that. If we were to do that, it would be people would flip shit because they feel that even though we are GamerGate supporters, that if we were to then run anything GamerGate related, that we were then trying to bring our politics into it. And so
I hear you on that, and I've always heard you on that. I've even had people in GamerGate say, "Get out, we're not about MRAs," and I'm like, I don't care, I'm a gamer. You can't make me leave. And by the way, all those lies they're telling about you, they've been telling them about me, and they can either accept that or not. But my point is like at this point, I'm almost willing to take the accusation. It's like, really? Well, if you're a feminist, why don't you come anyway?
Yeah, see, here's the
You
thing,
can see
though.
if
I
that's
think
true.
this is where I think that's the big difference. When they see us, like if we do hypothetically have this convention and we do flash off some GamerGate material, and if feminists or social justice warriors shows up, and when they see us not kicking them out, I think the public will actually be able to see a gigantic difference between our side and their side.
Oh.
When
that
we
is true.
don't kick out feminists and social justice warriors for their views, just, like the opposite side, when they kick out GamerGaters and MRAs for our views, there's a difference there. And I think that difference, because like if we hypothetically have this convention, we're not going to kick anybody out.
Oh, I wouldn't be doing a convention anyway. I was talking like a meetup kind of thing.
yeah, a meetup would be fun. I mean, if anybody, and I'll leave this open. I mean, if anybody wanted to hypothetically come, like, have one closer to where I live, I might even try and I don't know, carpool out with somebody to that location. I don't know. It would be
What's
fun.
the nearest big city to you?
Oh God, the nearest city to me probably be Columbia, unfortunately.
In North Carolina? Yeah.
Or somewhere in North Carolina. I don't know. I'm actually in South Carolina, so.
Yeah, I've thought about doing.
Yeah.
Oh, you're near Myrtle? No, never mind. Yeah, I thought about doing one here in Detroit. Just have a meetup, see what happens. I got so much to do. I mean, like, and it looks like, and this is a little bit of a segue, but it looks like the people are talking about going to the Denver Comic-Con, aren't they?
Yeah, they're talking about that, but it might get some pushback on that.
I think everybody who's interested in wearing GamerGate material or making a show should just show up and like put a button on after they get there.
Yeah.
And show who they are as people.
Yeah.
And just attend the conference.
But you also have to remember that the Denver Comic-Con has already released a statement saying that if you're free to wear you're free to wear GamerGate material at your own risk. So I mean that
that's them basically saying you come wearing GamerGate, the first accusation of harassment we get, we're throwing you out.
Yeah.
That is the translation, folks.
That's bullying, really.
Yeah, I'm afraid it is. I mean, this may, from their perspective, purely be we're not taking responsibility one way or the other. But you're right. It's just as safe to think there's somebody's going to be looking for you and throw you out. I don't know. The only difference would be this time, nobody has to lose thousands of dollars, and
Yeah.
never mind.
Well, on the bright side, last night's meetup was a complete success, from what I understand. And after everybody got back in the building, the bartenders all bought them free shots and everything like that, and and they had a good old time. And there's even one particular person who's tweeting out that they woke up and they have no idea where the fuck they are. And they've been posting pictures of where they find stuff. Like, they're like, okay, I still have no idea where I'm at.
Well, this is how it has to happen. This is how it has to happen. If GamerGate wants a presence at the Denver Comic-Con, you have to go there en masse. en masse. I mean, it's clear based on Calgary Expo that it's nothing for them to kick out 10 people, nothing. But if you show up, 10,000 GamerGaters show up, are they going to kick out 10,000 people? What kind of a media backlash is that going to create if they kick out 10,000 people based off of nothing but flimsy accusations with no evidence?
Yeah, it's going to be a really big problem if they do that. It's just going to be getting people to go out there in the first place, people who are going to have the courage to do so in the first place. And that's what's going to need to happen. In fact, I would say that what we need to do is have even more GamerGate meetups and make them very public. And then when it becomes such a big problem of these people making false accusations and bomb threats and shit like that, they're going to have to take notice.
I can tell you what I think is going to happen long term, if you really want to hear it. I really think this is going to happen, although it's going to be very important for all of us who care about this not to shut up and not to give up on it. But I already know for a fact, and I cannot name names for reasons that should be obvious, for a fact there are a number of reporters, game devs, and others who are young and on our side and waiting for the appropriate moment to be able to be completely on our side publicly. And those people are going to start coming out of the woodwork this year. There's going to be more and more of them.
Yep.
Those in the industry who created this Orwellian state of affairs are in trouble. And no, not because they're going to get killed. It's because they will have lost control of the narrative, and their careers are probably over. They're going to have to find new jobs like Ben Kuchera. That's what going to have to a lot of them. It really is.
Ben Kuchera didn't have to find a new job. They just they changed.
They moved him laterally.
They moved him. He's no longer covering video games. He's now covering comics and film.
Which is what you do in any organization when somebody's been embarrassed, but it would be more embarrassing to fire them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ben Kuchera's career was hurt. Have no doubt that it was. Even if he can say, ha ha ha, I've got to do comics and film.
He wants to cover video games. And there's a very specific reason why he wants to cover video games.
Yep. Yeah, that's why he's probably not going to get to do it again very soon.
And I can tell you that I met some people, some game devs actually showed up. Like when we had meetups to come meet us in Calgary, we had some game devs show up. We had some people who were afraid that people would find out that they were there, and so we protected their anonymity and things like that. And some of them chose not to be in group pictures and things like that. But yeah, that's what was happening. I mean, these people are scared. When they were describing what it was like to be in these industries among these people, they were petrified. They're like, they understand that they have to play along with the politics, even though they don't agree with it.
Right, and they're in a tough position too, because a lot of the politics is like, oh, well, I agree with about half of that, but it's all or nothing with those guys, and that's the problem.
Yeah. And they set themselves up to have a position where they were essentially kingmakers, and that's why a lot of game developers had to kowtow to them. They had to play the game, otherwise their games would not get any coverage at all, or they would get negative coverage. Like just absolutely negative, like 100% negative coverage. They would get like scores like 2.5 out of 10 if they didn't play the game, and it's sad because there were a lot of really, really good games that got shit on by these fucking game journalists simply because
they weren't in the in crowd. Yep. Yeah. Exactly. And when an establishment, I mean, so much has happened, and it's just like, where are the investigative journalists? But I mean, so much has happened. I mean, I had all but forgotten until we started talking about this. That note that went around telling people that if they expected good coverage, they'd better shut up about this shit. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, that's just so arrogant. That's the arrogance of power. I mean, it is pure arrogance, because, I mean, when you have real power, you don't even have to do that to people.
No.
Like that's not even the man behind the curtain type of shit. That's out there. That's like you are telling people publicly, if you talk about this, if you even remotely support Gamergate in any way, we will destroy you publicly. And they're saying this to them publicly, so everybody could see. And still, the mainstream media spun it the way they did.
Yeah.
We're
really
still
did.
the enemy. We're still the terrorists. I mean,
and this
we still
is
got that fucking episode of Law and Order SVU portraying Gamergate as a terrorist organization. Like, we're kidnapping female game developers, raping them, and then fucking threatening to kill them, making videos about it, and sending them around. Like, it's a fucking game to us. Like, this is how we're being portrayed.
And yet, what are they doing? Calling in bomb threats in Washington, D.C.
Some of these, I'm telling you right now, there's and watch, maybe I'll start a little attempt at a purge, but no, I'm serious. These media organizations, and I don't just mean gaming organizations at this point, I mean big media organizations, have reporters and editors and news producers working for them who are keeping their heads down right now. Well, one day, all of this poison's coming out, and they're going to start talking. You watch.
Well, I have something.
Well, I mean, the level of cognitive dissonance with these people, though, is just too damn high.
Yeah. Well, here's one that kind of points to what you're saying there, Dean. Fox Gibson at Spartacus Fox Gib on Twitter said, "Gamergate, I have been surfing the TV and can't find anything on the DC party being crashed. It at least deserves a 60-second spot."
Yeah, who's this again?
Fox Gibson at
I don't know who that
Spartacus
is.
Fox Gib on Twitter.
I just don't know who that is. Are you saying that's a media person, or it's just somebody observing it?
It's a GamerGate supporter.
Person. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, now we're learning that it does make you wonder how been covering not just this, but I mean, what else does the press not talk about because somebody powerful told them not to? I mean, it's not a conspiracy when you see it right in front of your face.
I mean, I think this actually, like, if we're going to talk about the big media corporations, the mainstream media corporations like CNN, Fox, MSNBC, ABC, it just shows how partisan they are. And it just shows that they have little interest in what's going on in this, except when it can help them boost their ratings so that they can continue to push their political narratives.
Yeah,
Fox wants to push their conservative agenda. MSNBC wants to push their liberal agenda. CNN wants to push their agenda that apparently somehow neutrality, 100% absolute neutrality is equal to objectivity, which is of course just absolute bullshit. But I mean that's the narrative over there at CNN. If you've ever seen any of their segments, it's like they pull on people from the Cola Wars, and I'm borrowing this from Jon Stewart, of course. You're from Coke, you're from Pepsi. I think we taste great. I think we taste great. Well, that's all the time we have. That's CNN in a fucking nutshell, which is just absolute bullshit. Then you have Fox, who is just, they're loud, they're in your face, they don't actually talk logically at all. It's just who can scream the loudest. They bring on liberal guests just to have them sit down, shut up, and listen to them blast their conservative agenda at them as loud as they can. MSNBC brings on conservative just so that they can illogically ridicule them on national TV. It's all a partisan. This is a partisan game that they're playing, and this is just highlighting that even more. Or am I completely off the mark?
Well,
here?
No. You're half off. Because I'm going to give you another one. I mean, there's no question. As I was about to argue with you one way, I'll make the argument, and then I'll defeat my own argument. I was going to say, no, what they really care about is ratings. But no, even that doesn't cut the mustard. The ratings plus agenda. Because, I'm sorry, bomb threat at a big public gathering in Washington, D.C. For political purposes, I'm sorry, that should be a ratings grabber, actually. I mean, even if you're that cynical, if it's all about ratings, it's like, well, we got a terrorist attack in Washington, D.C. Of course we got a breaking news alert. But I'm going to have to call it in. You're right. If they wanted more ratings, they'd cover this. But they don't, because the agenda is important to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The agenda is everything. I mean, there was actually one point, and I'm sorry if I'm taking this discussion a little off topic for a bit, but there was actually one point where there was one senator, and all the media was going there. Fox, ABC, CNN, MSNBC. They were all going there because they all thought for sure she was going to make some sort of statement about Wiener resigning. And the whole time there was like some ham-handing going on, like, why are we doing this? Nobody cares about this. The American people, what they really care about is jobs and the economy. Why are we doing this? And when they got there and she got off, she stood up. What did she say? She said, I'm not going to talk about Anthony Weiner. I'm going to talk about jobs and the economy. And what did they do? They shut the camera off and they fucking left.
Wow, I didn't know that.
They knew, and they still know that what the American people care about is jobs and the economy, and yet when they have the opportunity to cover what the American people really care about, they shut the fucking camera off and they leave because it's not the fucking agenda they want to push.
I'm afraid I have to confess that you're right. I used to truly believe that the main problem was that they were ratings chasers. To some extent that's still true, but no, the agenda matters more. And they're going to an audience that wants to be told what they, you know what I mean? They're pandering to a specific constituency, and that's all they want to do. And it's even not about the money. Because they're like, yeah, we'd get screaming ratings now, and then half of our sponsors will pull out because they don't like what we're saying.
Yeah.
You know.
And if you'll notice right now, I mean, this happened, and it was all over Twitter, and even had this trending in the UK. And you would expect that this would blow up in the media, but there has been silence on it because they don't know what angle to push. They don't. There's too much in this. They don't know what side we're on, and because there is no one side with GamerGate, because there are so many different people from so many different backgrounds. There is nothing they can really push. They don't know which angle to push. So it's frustrating.
Well, it won't be for long because I'm really pretty convinced that. All right, this is always hard for you GamerGaters who don't know anything about the men's rights movement. This is always Rachel was penning to it as well, or was alluding to it earlier. It's hard as a men's rights activist to be talking about this stuff because I was even about to say the movement, and it's real important for me the GamerGaters understand. We don't think the men's rights movement is the GamerGate movement, but it's like they bleed over. And the point is, at this point, just because we're fighting the same fucking people with the same tactics. But I'm sitting here thinking, those of us who care about not letting these bullies control the narrative, right or wrong, we don't want to let these bullies control the narrative. We need to not shut up. And what we'll be doing, and what we are doing long term, is getting young people's attention. And I hate to say it as an old fart, but you know, the old people, and I mean like over 40 or even over 30, don't want to hear it. It's the young people that are like, they're right, and they're going to bring that into their careers in the coming years. So, I mean, what we're doing matters, even if it never gets through directly. New people will show up. People who've been paying attention to us will show up. I mean, I'm just going to say it. I'm actually pretty sure some of the... I don't know. I'm just going to shut up now. I'm bubbling.
Speaking of us old farts, I've got something that really is going to amuse the fuck out of those of us who are in the over 30 crowd. We said it in the show notes. Miss Piggy is getting an award for being an outstanding feminist and a first in her field.
Miss Piggy as feminist icon. Yay! All I can do is applaud. Are you kidding? They couldn't have picked a better mascot.
Who else grew up with the Muppets?
Me?
I did.
Because I grew up with the Muppets, and when I was watching the Muppets, I was really young, okay? Really young. Like, I was like 5, 6 years old.
Me too.
But even then, I understood that Miss Piggy as a character was a satirical take. She was a satire on the feminists at the time, and of course the feminists we still have today, modern feminists, who are just, they have to be the center of attention no matter where they are, when it is. They don't care. They have to be the center of attention at all times.
Yeah, and she's a parody.
She's a parody. She's a satire, and she's getting a feminist award now. Really? I mean, this is.
Well, they don't realize they're just saying this is what we are.
Yeah.
Hold on. I gotta say it. This is what they are. So they're sock puppets.
Damn straight.
And
with a man's
pigs.
hand up their ass.
And there we go, pigs also. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, what amuses the fuck out of this for me is Miss Piggy was created by two men, voiced by the astounding Frank Oz, and, you know, puppeteered by multiple people, most of whom were men.
Understand Frank Oz, you will.
Yeah, for the majority of her time. And she is a feminist icon. The stupid burns.
Well, here's an interesting thing. I mean, it's like what Christian was saying. You know, one of the things that I grew up on, one of the videos or the sets of videos that I grew up on were videos from the Muppets my parents had bought, and I wore those fucking tapes out. I watched The Great Muppet Caper more times than I can probably remember, being a very, very young child. But even then, I remember thinking, Jesus Christ, like, there's something wrong with Miss Piggy. I couldn't identify with her. I thought she was horrible, and I felt like I was supposed to identify with this woman. She was very obviously a stereotype of all of the negative aspects of women. I mean, you think about it. She's materialistic. She's controlling. She's violent.
Bossy. She's bossy.
For sure.
Not just bossy. She's a bully. She's a
horrible bully.
And that's like the worst part, is that she's a fucking bully. But when she doesn't get her way, everything fucking time slows down. Everything fucking falls apart because Miss Piggy didn't get her fucking way, and now she's taking everybody with her. She's like, all right, is anybody, like, okay, this is who wants to leave this sinking ship with me? That's usually exactly what fucking happens anytime when there's a disagreement between Miss Piggy and Kermit the Frog. She says, okay, we're leaving this fucking sinking ship. Who's coming with me? And that's exactly. It's fucking ridiculous.
I know I'm the old fart. I keep saying it, but my memory of the Muppets is actually when they started on Sesame Street in the early 70s. Although Piggy was a creation for the Muppet Show, so she was like created a few years later in the mid 70s. But yeah, Muppets are totally part of my childhood, and I always, to hold up Miss Piggy as your icon, you have to either be showing a remarkable sense of humor, like, you know, when somebody like me says neckbeard, you know, in his basement, you know, or, you know, you're having a sort of self-deprecating funny, or you just have to be blind. This is like picking Yosemite Sam, the psycho who shoots at people, as your Sam from the cartoons, you know, with Bugs Bunny. He shoots people, he screams at people, he torments people, and, you know, he's fucking crazy. Now, My biscuits are burning. I might make him my mascot, but I'd be knowing that I was joking and that this was, you know, there was some irony here. You know, oh my God, I'm reading this piece on Skepchick.
I don't think.
Huh?
I was going to say something, but go ahead, please.
I'm reading this piece on Skepchick, you know, really taking very seriously why she's a great icon, and I'm like, oh, you have no sense of humor and no sense of self-awareness or irony at all, do you?
Yeah, to want this as your icon unironically is ridiculous. Like, I knew there was going to be shit was going to go down when I had a roommate in college who started putting up like Miss Piggy paraphernalia on her walls as if she, like, that was the best character ever, and I was like, oh shit. It was unironically on the wall, as like, it was very obvious from her demeanor that she saw her as a role model. Shit. And yes, the woman ended up being like a narcissistic, violent bitch. Yes.
make you much more of a fan of Miss Piggy. Are you having flashback, Rachel? Have you been triggered by this conversation, Rachel?
think
Have you
we're
been triggered?
I've been so triggered.
Hey, Dean, don't worry about it. She actually enjoys being triggered in the right way.
Oh yeah, I do like being triggered.
Anally triggered.
Oh, trigger me timbers.
Oh, you had to go there. You had to go.
I had to go there.
So, I mean, does anybody have anything else to say on this topic, or can we move on? Because I mean, it's a ridiculous topic. It really is. It's ridiculous.
It is
absurdity.
ridiculous, but it is hilarious at the same
It is
time.
absurd. It is just
Okay. Who wrote the article though? One skeptic, was it Rebecca Watson?
No, I didn't recognize the name. Some other skeptic.
One of her Hugbox cronies. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't recognize the name. So.
Okay.
And I don't even.
let's
Just for
talk
the
about
record,
Steam.
I don't read Skepchick very often. I just found them.
Me
talking
neither.
about
I avoid it like
Anyway.
the plague.
Well, let's now shift the topic over and talk about Steam implementing a system where developers can prevent customers from launching the game. Jim, when you wrote this up, you kind of ended it with kind of bullshit, in my opinion. It is and it isn't. I mean, I could see this working really, really well because Tripwire Interactive, who just released Killing Floor 2, they put it in their EULA, their end user license agreement, that if they are, being really bad, if they're behaving really, really bad, they can ban you and prevent you from even launching the game at all. Now, one way I see this working out really well is if there's a system in place where developers could verify the allegations in the reports that they receive before making the decision to ban or not. If there is no such system and developers are simply banning on allegations, I mean, this was an issue in Call of Duty a few years back where players were literally getting banned because certain troll YouTubers would blast people's usernames publicly in their YouTube videos and say, report this person, and they would literally get 180, 200,000 reports in a weekend, and then players would just get banned with no evidence and no verification whatsoever.
Well, see, I'm looking at it from the perspective of most of this is going to probably end up being bot, just doing everything. So yeah, that's why I say it's kind of bullshit, because there's not going to be a whole lot of evidence of any wrongdoing. It's just going to be the normal report. If enough reports happen in a short amount of time, they get banned. Yeah, you can't. I have a problem with that because it's very open to abusing the system.
Yeah, and I don't really see that working out too well, to be honest. I would love if Valve actually implements a system where you could verify. Maybe the report requires like a screenshot or something. Some sort of evidence that hey, this is what this person. If somebody's talking over mic, there's some way where you could get the recording of that and send that into the developer for review, or if somebody's typing in chat, in the in-game chat, and they're being, just
all right. So
out
if I'm getting this correctly, because I had trouble absorbing it, what Steam's actually doing is giving developers the ability to simply say, no, you may not launch our game even if you bought it.
Yes.
And giving them the power. Now, from Steam's perspective, it's actually not a bad move, because what they have essentially done from a pure business perspective, I mean, with nothing. From a pure business perspective, guess what? Steam has basically just washed its hands of responsibility. And they're going to be able to say if somebody's got a problem, take it up with the developer. I bet you that's part of what's going on here.
Well, that's essentially it. But I mean, for years now, what Valve has been doing with their VAC system, particularly in games like Counter-Strike, Counter-Strike Source, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, those games are so cheap to buy, and they're constantly going on sale for up to like 90% off. I mean, the last summer sale, you could pick up Global Offensive for like $3. It was just insane. So, and the way VAC works is there is a delay. They will VAC, and VAC only detects cheats, by the way. It only detects memory hacks. So any hack that physically alters the memory process, in memory, gets detected, and then there's a delay. It will pick you up, and then it'll continue to allow you to play until the next wave of bans, and then you're banned. But what all these players, these hackers, these cheaters have to do is wait for the game to come on sale again, which it does all the fucking time, and pick it up for $3, and they're back playing and cheating on a new Steam account. And so, I mean, VAC, it may once have been a really good anti-cheat. It's now just a nuisance for cheaters. It's just a nuisance more than anything for cheaters. It's not even that big of an obstacle anymore. But what they're implementing is they're implementing a system where developers themselves can say that, okay, this person bought the game, it's in their Steam library, but we've gotten reports that they're trolling, or they're being deliberately, they're harassing deliberately, or they are cheating, and it could be the case that without any evidence whatsoever to back up those allegations, that player can now no longer launch the game. They are banned from playing the game. It will not launch. They go to try and launch it, and a message will pop up saying, you are not allowed to launch this game, or something similar.
Well, I'll be honest with you. To stop cheating, great, wonderful. To stop people being complete dicks to other players, great, wonderful. But I've seen too many of these systems get abused and used against people, and it's just like at some point you got to start trying to figure out, okay, when is it abusing the system? When is it actually a good thing? Most of the time, I hate to say it, human beings tend to take things to extremes. You see that if you look, you see this all the time. That's always my worry when it comes to them. When it comes to any kind of blocking of people, is at what point is it going to get taken to extremes?
And with a system like this, depending on how it's implemented, I don't think we have all the information yet. So, I mean, it could be implemented in a very responsible way. But if it's not, if there is no evidence requirements at all, and it's just basically based on a number of reports, then, yeah, I mean, this could be abused like you wouldn't believe. And I see it being abused deliberately by people who would protest such a thing. When Steam just last week actually implemented a system where modders could charge money for their mods, and they started with Elder Scrolls Skyrim. There were troll mods going up where it cost $4, and it was supposed to be like a new weapon model, but all the mod really did was add a new apple. And so there were a lot of those mods going up in protest to Steam allowing modders to charge money for their mods, because the way they viewed it was this was outsourcing DLC development. So rather than developing official DLC, you would let the mod community create your DLC for you, and that would extend the life of the game, rather than having to spend development money creating the DLC or the expansions yourself.
Well, fair enough, but at the same time, I can say, these modders are spending time, their precious time on this earth creating these mods. Why shouldn't they get paid for it too?
Yeah, but you see, that's the thing though. As a modder myself, I make maps. I'm in the mod community. The mentality of the mod community is, we don't do it for the money, we do it for the game. Now, would it be cool if I had like a donate button up on every single map page I put up on the Steam Workshop? would it be cool if I had a donate button so people could still play my maps for free, but if they felt my map was really, really good and worth it, they could donate? Sure. I mean, I wouldn't mind having in a little bit, of extra disposable income from that, but I don't do it for the money. I do it because of the game. I enjoy the game, and I want to give something back to it. And besides, I actually really, really enjoy mapping, by the way. It's just I enjoy mapping for Counter-Strike more than I enjoy playing Counter-Strike.
Well, fair enough. I mean, what I'm saying is, yeah, if they implement it the way you're saying, pay me if you like it, hey, that's even better. That's a better way of doing it, and you got to find the better ways of doing things. Yeah, if they're just outsourcing their DLC, yeah, fuck you. Sorry, I kind of agree with you on that. But at the same time, I don't see a problem with letting modders get paid for their hard work.
So, but going back to the original topic here with this ban system, I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, is this the right move, or does it depend on how it's implemented, or is it a shitty move? Is it a good move?
Always depends on how it's implemented.
I can say it seems really ridiculous to me because we're talking about people who have already paid money for this service, and you're kicking them out. You're saying you can no longer use the game that you have paid for.
And that's an important point, because even with games like Counter-Strike, if you are banned, you're only banned from playing on VAC secured servers, and there are a number of publicly run servers that are not VAC secured, and so if you're banned, you could still launch the game and play on non-VAC secure servers. You could play against bots in a local server. You could run your own server if you want to, and run the type of mods. If it's a gun game mod, a deathmatch mod, even a Warcraft mod, those exist. And you could still play on your own server provided you don't secure it with VAC. And really, it's just a config change. You go into the config file, VAC equals, VAC enable equals true or false or 0 or 1, and that's it. And you could still play the game even though you're banned. You're only banned from VAC secure servers. But what this system will do is prevent people from actually launching the game at all.
Yeah. And that's just kind of, I mean, depending upon how expensive the game was to begin with, it's pretty shitty, to be honest. I know the person is being unlawful, or they're not following the rules and things like that. And sure, that's really shitty on their part, but they paid for the game. I mean, where's the line that we're going to draw here?
Well, we live in interesting times, that's for sure. Yeah, but
Speaking of interesting times, NASA producing a warp bubble?
All right, I know that Nefanorafra is going to have something to say, but I'm going to start off by saying...
It's about fucking time.
It is. I will just start by saying I'm extremely skeptical. Go!
Well, yeah, they've got to reproduce it, but the fact that the initial evidence shows that it is possible is a good sign.
Yeah. Now, I've gone ahead and added to the show notes on AVFM, but I mean, Popular Mechanics has an article up on it, and they're saying, hold on a minute, don't believe it just yet. But there is a claim that they did duplicate it in a vacuum, so I'm not sure what to say. I mean, what do you think?
It's still up in the air until we actually see it reproduced multiple times, proving that it is possible. It's obviously something we need to take skeptically, but the fact that all indications show that it is possible is a good sign. I mean, they said the same thing about cold fusion, fusion at low temperatures. They're saying that it was never possible. It's not going to happen. But more and more evidence is coming out that it is possible and it is happening.
All right, but there's something unfortunate to your statement there, and this is what I thought of immediately, because I remember vividly when the cold fusion thing came out, and there was two researchers named Pons and Fleischman that announced that they had accomplished this.
Yeah, those guys aren't what I'm talking about.
Before they had done the necessary homework of verifying things, and here I see a group at NASA, which I must say has had some real publicity issues and some real screw-ups, and they're going to press with something before they verified it, and that really smells bad to me. That's all I'm going to say. It's very exciting, but I actually got burned by believing the cold fusion thing might have been true back when in the 80s when they announced it.
Well, I mean, I don't even think this is this group at NASA who's saying this. I mean, this isn't. By the way, all this is coming from an article on the Inquisitor. You know,
but it's if you go into Google News or whatever, you'll see.
Here's the thing: they actually do quote some individuals in the group at NASA, and from the sounds of things, if you read what the group at NASA is saying, is that they themselves are still skeptical. They still have to do more work to verify it. They don't know if it was atmospheric heat. That's why they have to verify to try and do it in a vacuum to make sure that it isn't just atmospheric heat. But it's the author at the Inquisitor who's sort of filling in these blanks and hyping it up, sort of sensationalizing it a little bit. So, you know,
all right,
yes,
the Escapist.
We have to be skeptical. We have to. We have to be skeptical. We have to wait for them to verify it. But I mean, it is quite exciting that this is at the very least a possibility.
Well, as a Star Wars fan, I'm kind of upset it's not hyperdrive. But you know, whatever gets me across the fucking universe, I'm okay with.
I will note just you know, the Escapist.
No hyperdrive for you, and you don't get a Wookiee.
Damn it!
No.
The Escapist is run of stories. Can you guys hear me? The Escapist is running a story saying warp drive in a vacuum has been confirmed. That the M drive warp field works in a vacuum. So they're claiming that NASA claims that it works under a vacuum. If you just go in and search Google News on M drive, EM drive, you get a bunch of them now, and a lot of people are talking about it. Popular Mechanics is calling bullshit. Others are urging caution. I don't know. I just don't know what to think. I know that this is the sort of thing that would so excite me that I would so want to believe in it that I have to okay, well, do I really? Yeah.
Well, see, here's the thing. I am excited about it in the sense of being a sci-fi fan, and you know, the possibility is just kind of tingling my sci-fi senses.
Well, hell yeah, because I'm going to get on the goddamn thing and leave this planet and never come back because the people here are fucked. Can I get an amen, Nephenor?
Hey, you guys can't leave. I already told you. You're not allowed.
Oh, shit.
Take off, nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Straight.
But as I was saying, yes, this excites the fuck out of me because, you know, what was it, Star Trek with the communicators, and then we have cell phones and all the stuff that because of Star Trek has come about. It's not outside the realm of possibility just based upon the track record. But at the same time, it's like until I see it happening, I'm going to remain skeptical. I'm going to hope. I'm going to pray. I'm going to be right. And I'm an atheist saying I'm going to pray for it. So that
I'm just going to say
I think
that, any family that has the last name Cochran needs to name one of their sons Zephram.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes.
Right now.
Do it. Zephram Cochran. Do it. But I mean, I think it's also important to note that what they supposedly accomplished was they had a laser beam. Okay, so light particles, photons, moving faster than the speed of light. I think we're still far from having macroscopic objects like spacecraft and human beings moving faster than the speed of light. This is a light particle.
Yes, but everything.
This is a start.
Starts small. I mean, anybody who's a scientist will tell you, it starts at the very micro scale, and they start building up to that.
Mm-hmm.
So especially when you're starting in stuff like that. I mean, I remember back when they created the Large Hadron Collider, and everybody's like, "That's going to create a fucking wormhole or a black hole in I think it's Sweden."
Yes.
Yeah. Now they're using it all the fucking time. I'm just going to be like, okay, it's a possibility. You know, as a sci-fi geek, I'm all behind it, going, yes, please make it happen. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, I'm skeptical. I'll wait and see. You know, but that doesn't mean that I'm not excited as fuck. This gives me wood. This is geek wood right here.
Yeah, a little bit.
Look at the size of that warp drive on him.
I'm going to be cautiously enthusiastic, and I'm going to remain skeptical at this point.
All right, I think what we need.
Yeah.
I think what we need is to get Goodfella to go down there and straighten that shit up, because you need a Scotsman to figure out the warp drive.
No.
All right, Scotty.
Send Chris Doohan down
No,
there.
Simon Pegg.
Simon Pegg's an Englishman,
I got
for
a better
fuck's
one.
sake. Simon Pegg's an Englishman.
Chris Doohan. Chris
Awesome.
Doohan, the son of the
wait.
original actor,
Peter Capaldi.
Chris Doohan. Why Peter Capaldi?
Because he's Scottish.
Peter Capaldi.
And he'll scare the shit out of him.
No, Chris
Oh,
Doohan. The son of the original actor who played Scotty.
You
Chris
give me
Doohan.
those lithium crystals and I'll shove them up your ass. No.
Send Thunderfoot.
You're so dense and light things
Well,
around you.
speaking about Peter Capaldi, who plays Doctor Who, I'm going to segue into Gemma Redgrave's Kate Stewart returns for 2 Doctor Who episodes this season. So she's coming back.
Who's this now? Wait, what?
Kate Stewart from Unit.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she was an interesting character. I'm not sure if they really needed a press announcement for that.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, I think the press announcement about Maze Williams being a guest star, that was a much bigger press announcement. But I mean, we did sort of see Kate Stewart get saved by her Cyberman father in what is supposedly and allegedly her Cyberman father in one of the final episodes of last season. And so I kind of want to see where that goes, because they can't just leave that little sort of mini story arc there. I want to see where that goes. I want to see if she's going to make attempts to try and save her father, try and get in contact with her now Cyberman father. So yeah, that's a possibility.
Well, I don't know if that's possible because it looked like all the Cybermen blew up.
No, he survived.
Well, it's neat that they're staying with the canon. I mean, Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart was a huge character. He was what are you going to say? He was a recurring character for like 10 years. So he's kind of important to the whole canon in a way. But do we care that much about his daughter? I mean, it's cool. I like the actress and I like the character, but I'm like,
I don't know.
You're right. Is this press-worthy per se?
Really like
I mean.
No,
I'll be honest, I like the character. Yeah, well, everybody's more interesting than Clara, but I like the character. I've enjoyed the character since her first appearance with oh God, I think it was Matt Smith.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It sort of fills the void left by Harriet Jones, to be honest. So.
I actually kind of wondered if they were doing that for that precise reason. We need somebody like Harriet Jones, but that actress isn't available. Let's do a new character. That may have been exactly where she came from.
And yes, you're right, it was Matt Smith because it was the Slow Invasion where she showed up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now, what I think would be a much more important press announcement is who's going to replace Jenna Coleman.
You almost
replacing Clara. as the companion.
I'm actually going to stand by my prediction or my hope, but I actually think it's going to happen. New companion is going to be Missy. That's what I'm rooting for, and I just think it could happen. I really think it could happen.
For a few episodes, but I don't think it could ever last long term.
No, I mean,
it's going to blow up. There's no question. It's going to blow apart.
Would that work? Having Missy, the Master, as the companion, when for decades the character of the Master has been diametrically opposed to the Doctor in every single episode where the Master's in. He/she has been the villain. Would that actually work?
But a villain with a strange and unusual relationship with the Doctor, because even no matter what sex the Master is, there's
Doctor
a sort of
Who. There's a Doctor Who we're talking
The Master is obsessed with the Doctor, to be perfectly honest.
This is Doctor Who. Everything about this show is sort of strange and weird in that way. So
I am totally seeing. Here's what I'm predicting. And in fact, if I were the writer, I would write this. And yes, Stephen Moffat, you can write me or use me. I'll write it for you, or you can use me as a consultant. Yeah, that's going to happen. But no, this is totally how I'd write it.
Stephen Moffat listens to all of our shows.
Oh, he does. He's a huge fan. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. We're joking. But in any case...
No, somebody at his office listens for him.
And give him a summary of all of our arguments. So today, right? But no, this is totally how I do it. I would stick them together so that they can't escape each other, and then they have to help each other. And that's what happens.
That would actually be a really great episode.
That could run 10 episodes.
Dean,
yeah.
You accidentally muted yourself mid-sentence, and we missed what I think is an important part. We didn't get to hear it. Please restate that.
I think that if you put Missy and the Doctor in a situation where they can't escape each other and they have to help each other, or they both die, or something that they both don't want to happen is going to happen, that's not even going to... That could go 10 fucking episodes. I mean, really, it could take up a whole season because
I don't know. I think it would be a good two-parter, but I just can't get behind 10 episodes of that.
I gotta agree with Rachel on that. It's too much. There is a point where you're going too far with something, and I'm going to point to the 3rd season of Star Trek Enterprise.
Okay, what was that?
Where it was a season. It's what I call a season-long episode. There is a point where it's just way too much.
That's what I liked every bit about Star Trek Enterprise. That's what I liked about Deep Space Nine. What are you talking about? That's a great thing.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, I think the reason why it works in Doctor Who, and why it worked in Deep Space Nine, and why it worked for the most part in Enterprise, except Season 3, was that Season 3 in Enterprise was literally a season-long episode, and they had basically nothing. They had basically nothing but that long-ass story arc, wherein, shows like Doctor Who, they have the season-long story arc, but every episode is, in and of itself, a smaller, independent story arc. I think that works. Stretching one singular story arc across an entire season without having anything else in between doesn't work.
I thought the 3rd season of Enterprise was its best season, and it was tragic that it cut just as it was getting good.
Of course you would, and that's just because it's argumentative.
No, I really loved. Enterprise is my 2nd favorite of the Star Trek whole menu. Well, Enterprise and Deep Space Nine, they kind of tied for 2nd place for me.
I mean, I can tell you guys what I would like to happen in Doctor Who. What I think would be a really great.
Sure.
Contrast, and I think I've said this before. I think a teenager, or some sort of, or even a male character, someone who could not even remotely be considered to be a love interest, but with a conflicting personality, that would be just enough to create chemistry on screen, would be best. I really, really think that would be pretty awesome, because you have an older Doctor, you have a more serious Doctor, and if you had somebody who is, lighthearted or just any kind of really great contrast. Unfortunately, Jenna Coleman's character is not a really great contrast because she is incredibly dull. What does she really gain from being with the Doctor at this point, other than, she's got her sort of humdrum life, but she's still sort of practically perfect in every way. So even if she goes back to her life, it's still interesting. She still has things that she benefits. I mean, that's the thing that we're missing from this particular. You have to have something that is really gained, something that is gained out of the relationship, a sort of a conflicted relationship, because you had Amy Pond, which was the last major companion, and what was the problem there? What was the conflict? Well, the conflict was that the more that she spent time with the Doctor, the more that she did all these things, it was harder for her to be normal, and a part of her really did want to have that normal life after everything, and she needed to try and balance her relationship. Well, what is really being lost from Jenna Coleman up until this point, up until the point where she lost?
I think
Mr.
that's
Pink.
why they introduced Pink.
Yeah, but it's still kind of.
I think
it's still sort of weak,
they introduced a love interest for Clara, and I think that they tried to emulate what they did with Amy and Rory, with Jenna and this. I think
but
his name
it's
was
just
David
not.
Pink.
It's just not working.
But yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because here's the thing: with Amy and Rory, they were already together and a couple before the Doctor showed up.
Yeah, and that was
I mean, yeah, you could make the argument that the entire beginning of Matt Smith's first episode, it was young Amy, but when he actually showed up to take her as the companion, they were already grown up. They were together. They were getting married.
Yeah, I mean,
yada.
If we think about
with Mr. Pink, it was later.
Yeah, and if we think about how has she actually had her life really uprooted, if we're really, really honest. That's what's really lacking here is massive conflict. She does not really lose out on really anything with the exception of what happened with Mr. Pink. With that exception, she doesn't really miss out on much else, to be honest.
And I think that was what made her actually interesting for such a short period of time, was when Pink came into the equation and you started seeing her life get uprooted by the Doctor.
Yeah, and now that's suddenly gone. Like, oh, you didn't drag that on, and I mean, they could have taken that relationship and done something with it, but then they said, oh no, we're just going to end this relationship situation, take it away abruptly, and now she goes back to being boring.
They almost did when they introduced the future Mr. Pink, the cosmonaut, astronaut, and he was supposed to be Clara's descendant, like great-great-grandson or something like that. And then now, I mean, are we going to see an episode where it's confirmed that Clara is pregnant, that she got pregnant before Mr. Pink became a Cyberman?
We don't know. That actually might make things interesting. I mean, that's the only thing that they could really do to make this interesting. But as we know, there are things that happen when you have been traveling around in time in the TARDIS and you've been pregnant, or that's at least a possibility, because you did have the situation with River Song, but then again, technically, she was conceived on the TARDIS, so
she was conceived in the time vortex.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. But we still have no idea what the TARDIS might have in terms of an effect on a mother who is traveling through time and space and things like that. We still have no idea. But I'm just saying.
Well, I can tell you what the results are. Boring television.
Yeah, yeah, boring television. It's like, oh, you're gonna be a mom.
let's talk about something that's a little bit less boring. I say the Game of Thrones season 5 synopsis.
I have not read any of the synopses from those episodes, and quite honestly, I don't want spoilers.
There's
so
no
let me get this
spoilers.
straight. You know nothing, Jon Snow?
It's
Well, you know some things.
let me put it to you this way: it's so bland and so vague. It's like it's almost like something's going to happen to you today, Christian.
Oh, you mean
and
like
also-
horoscopes?
And there'll be some kind of argument between Nephenor and somebody else on Tales from the Infrared. Will be coming soon.
Right.
In a Game of Thrones, somebody will die.
Somebody's
Well,
going to die, and it's going to be bad.
It's,
And they'll be
it's like
fucking. I understand they'll be fucking. Do you
Yeah,
think they'll be
they're-
fucking?
They'll be fucking and
Did I mention
and
there's
people
a
will
dragon?
die. Yeah, did I mention that there's a dragon?
There's- I tell you what, I have my own hypothesis about Game of Thrones. I don't think this is a spoiler so much as just, it's just not a season of Game of Thrones unless Tyrion's getting fucked one way or the other.
Well, I can guarantee he is.
One way or the other, Tyrion's getting fucked because that's the deal.
Yeah, I just hope he actually enjoys it this time.
I gotta say, I'm kind of getting a little annoyed. I'm like, please, we're on episode 4. Please, for the love of God, take Tyrion somewhere. This is just getting ridiculous. I'm like, I don't want to see him in
he's
a
gonna get
fucking
taken.
boat.
Trust me.
He's.
Okay, now wait a minute. Has the fourth episode? Is it the fourth episode tomorrow or the fifth episode tomorrow?
Fourth episode is tomorrow.
Okay.
So
Well,
I,
I
can't,
And of
ended up
course, some of us have
spoilers,
already
but-
seen it.
I can't give spoilers, but
Nobody on this show has seen those episodes yet.
Tyrion is on a boat.
No. We didn't do anything to see them. We just happened to see them.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. What are you talking about?
Tyrion is getting taken somewhere.
Tyrion is getting taken somewhere. Yes, he is.
You're forgetting something, Dean. I have a time machine. Of course I can see them.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And then you let us have access to your TiVo. I understand. It's very nice. But anyway, I'm sorry. Somebody else is going to talk, and I forgot what I was going to say.
And dragons are going to burn things. There we go.
Okay, I've got
Burn,
two
baby,
theories.
burn,
Does anybody
flames are
wanna-
getting higher.
I have two provocative theses, and they both came from well, at least one of them came from a woman, so you know it's correct. No, I don't know what that means. Provocative thesis number 1 is that it took me a while, so you might like this. Jon Snow is a Targaryen.
That was my assumption as well.
Well, how long have you been thinking it? Because
Does
it
not
never
surprise
occurred to me.
I've been thinking it since over the last.
Lately, they've actually been kind of hinting that he's not actually Ned Stark's bastard son.
Yeah, which
Well,
is why
wait,
I
well,
believe. Which is
okay,
why
I don't think it
I
can be-
believe.
Wait a minute. Take
Hang
time.
on.
Christian.
Which is why I believe that he's actually a Baratheon, because if anybody's been following Game of Thrones since the beginning, you know that Ned Stark and Robert Baratheon were very close. They were like brothers. Okay, they
May I
fought in
point
the
out-
same battles. They supported each other. They were, for all intents and purposes, brothers. And we already know that Robert Baratheon, before he died, fathered hundreds of bastards.
Yes.
He has hundreds of bastard children. We also
Yes.
know about Ned Stark's personality, the type of man that Ned Stark is. He's very honorable. I don't see him cheating on his wife. So I'm positive that Jon Snow is not the bastard child of Ned Stark.
Yeah.
And
Okay, now I want to point out two things.
fairly certain that Jon Snow is one of the bastard children of Robert Baratheon, and Ned Stark took the heat for him because he knew you cannot have a king fathering bastard children.
Okay.
Actually, I have a
I'm
comment
gonna-
on this too.
Let me make a point, and then I'm going to ask Rachel, and then I'm going to ask Nephenor. But I'm going to make a point that in an earlier episode of this show, sometime last year, we did in fact discuss this very possibility. Which is why I'm interested in what Rachel has to say of why she no longer believes that, and I'll bet you it's the same reason I no longer believe that either. Go ahead.
Well, one of the most popular fan theories is that is that Jon Snow is actually the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Ned Stark's sister.
That's what I think. Oh, sorry.
And that what happened was, I mean, they when they described the scene that Ned Stark or whoever walked into when they found his sister dying, is that she was covered in blood. They never explained why she was covered in blood, but if she had just had a violent birth, it would explain that exact thing. If she had died in childbirth, giving birth to a child, yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
A child of rape, we know for a fact, because it's been said more than once, that Targaryen, challenger to the throne, did indeed rape her.
Yeah, and it was a regular
already
thing.
Established.
It was a regular thing, and it would make sense that if there was a child that was to be born from that union, and Ned, knew that his sister was dying, and if she had a wish, it would probably be, please take my child somewhere, like hide my child, make sure that nothing happens to this child. And that would make a lot of sense. And the way that you kept the Targaryen features was through incest, meaning that all it would take for the child to not necessarily have the visible signifiers that they were a Targaryen would just be to have a child with a regular person who was outside the Targaryen bloodline, and it would be easy for him to then pass. And it would,
sorry.
Okay, couple comments. First comment is, remember when Ned Stark was researching about the children, and he found out that the Baratheon bloodline, the black hair, is a trait that is dominant.
Yep.
So we're looking at a Jon Snow, black hair.
Yes, and blue eyes. Hair of black eyes.
Exactly. He looks very much Baratheon. Not only that,
it's a head fake.
There's the fact that the whole Targaryen thing. I think that if it actually was, there would be a little more dialogue between him and that one Targaryen that's up at the wall.
Why does he know? Well, he doesn't know.
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
he might recognize something.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, that's the thing. There's very little known about the Targaryens because most of them are now gone. And
except the one on the wall.
Well, the way that you usually kept all of those features was, like I said before, directly through intermarriage. Like you wouldn't be able to do that otherwise. And so it is definitely a possibility that the features of the Starks would be a lot more strong.
Let me tell you one thing about this theory that clicks it for me, and when my ex, who's a good friend of mine and a Game of Thrones fan, she pointed this out, I said, you know what, you got a point. That witch that is hanging around with the current pretender, God, what's his name? I can't keep track of all the Red Witch, the Fire Witch Queen bitch, right?
Melisandre.
Yeah, has been able to spot Robert Baratheon's bastards from like 5 miles, and she's looked Jon Snow dead in the eye on multiple occasions and had no interest in him whatsoever. That says to me he's not a Baratheon, because she's looking for Baratheon blood, and he ain't got any. That's what I'm saying.
That's a good point. I never thought of that.
Yeah, she's no interest at all in him.
She definitely tried, and it didn't work. Well, she definitely tried, and it didn't work.
But she hasn't
thus far, every time that she has tried, that she has. Well, thus far, she's had, like, every single time she came against one of the bastards, one of the Baratheon bastards, she has been able to take every single one of them down. And one of the things about the Targaryens is that there's some things about them that are a little bit different than everyone else because of the dragon blood. And that might actually be one of the reasons why. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily that he is just really hung up on the girl that he lost. I think it also might be that there's something about him that is different in willpower.
He was raised by the Starks. He has the will of the North.
I mean, if he has Stark blood and he has Targaryen blood, that might actually have a thing that would equal that shit out. The reasons why the Targaryens were crazy is because of all of the fucking inbreeding.
Yeah. And what's Bran going to do? Here's theory number 2. Bran is going to take control of those dragons away from what's her name, who doesn't have any control of them, it turns out. He's going to take them, and they're going to be his, and that's why he's going to fly, by the way. They're his dragons. He's just coming for them, and he doesn't know it yet.
That would actually make sense,
because if you look at the raven with 3 eyes, how many dragons are there?
3.
Mm-hmm. He's been told he will never walk again, but he will fly. And that could be really literal. I think it probably is. What else is the little fucking kid doing for the last 4 seasons?
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, though. I mean, you could make an argument that he's already flown by, he's a warg, so he could take control of various animals. Right now, he's taking control of ravens, so he's technically already flying. But if they're his dragons, wouldn't that also mean that Bran Stark is also a Targaryen child?
No.
Not necessarily.
But he is going to assist Jon Snow, the Targaryen, in getting the crown, the Iron Throne. That's what's going to happen. That's what I'm betting on. He's going to assist his cousin/brother in taking the throne now that Jon Snow has finally been talked out of the wall.
I have to ask a question. I know that in the books you've had situations where the Stark children have had moments where they could see through the eyes of their wolves. Did that ever happen with Jon Snow? If that happened, then it might point to him also definitely having Stark blood, which would then align more with the Targaryen theory than the Baratheon.
Actually, I think he did.
Which would mean that he absolutely has Stark blood. And if that is the case, then the Targaryen Stark theory would actually hold weight.
I don't think that actually happened. He was very close.
No, it did. I remember it happening, and I think it was
very close with his direwolf, and he could. His direwolf would follow him around and protect him, and he'd be able to give his he trained his direwolf well, so that when he gave him orders.
Well, I think in the books it might have there were moments where this happened. Like they even said that I think Arya at one point was able either had a dream or actually saw through the eyes of her direwolf at least once. And so if this is the thing, one of the things that they try to say is that there's something different about the Starks, and the thing about the Starks is that they still very much honor the old gods, and one of the things that they're talking about is that there are old gods beyond that of the 7 that seem to be showing themselves in these different creatures, and they're manifesting in things like in the magic in this universe. Like the fire god that they're talking about with Melisandre is one that keeps showing itself. So.
And
speaking
in the second book, Jon Snow does inhabit Ghost's body.
Well, I haven't actually read the books yet. I'm sort of just following the show. I wanted to pick up the books.
They took that out of the show entirely. The books have it. All of the children do this.
I bet we all seem to be on consensus that the odds are that Jon Snow is Ned Stark's nephew, and the only question is who's the dad. And there was a real good case to be made for his dad as a Baratheon. A lot of good reasons for that theory, but this Targaryen thing has me really interested. It seems.
Yeah, and when would you have enough time for Robert Baratheon to be with Ned Stark's sister? Because I mean, they were of course going to be betrothed to one another, but right before you really even got to see that happen, Rhaegar Targaryen just went yoink and took her away.
And raped her.
Yeah, if she had given birth to a Baratheon child, what would Rhaegar Targaryen have done? He would have found it a threat and gotten rid of it.
Yes, and let's not be too nice to the Robert Baratheon. He might well have wanted that bastard killed too, because certainly whoever he did marry, and there's good reasons for Ned to have hidden this all along, no matter who's the father.
Yeah.
But speaking about gods, I saw a meme recently, like I think yesterday. It was actually very interesting, and it's a Game of Thrones meme. Anybody remember the dancer that trained Arya?
Yeah, he was awesome.
You remember what he said to Arya there is
Which
only
one?
one God, and its name is death.
Yeah,
And we say-
the hidden god.
And remember Yakin in
Jakim Hakar.
Yakin Hakar said there is only one God and a girl knows his name.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, he was training her from the beginning.
Yeah, we're talking about the many-faced god of death.
Okay.
No.
I
Jakim Hakar
just-
was her dance teacher.
Was the dance teacher. It's the same character, same person. He's been with her all along. Well, that's the idea anyways. Yeah. Because we already know that
Although
Yakin
that could
can
also
change
just
his
be
face.
because they were both from Bravos.
Well, the faceless ones, I think what ends up happening
But
is
how would
that...
Yakin know that she knows her? She knows
Because she did tell him that she had a dance teacher from Bravos.
Well, yeah, the magic of the faceless seems to be that they are letting the power of the faceless god into their bodies, and that allows them to then take the form of others. That's just my theory. I don't really know as much about this, but from what I've come to understand, that might be what's happening, which means that the faceless god then dwells within all of the followers of it, all of the people who adhere to worship of it. But yeah, so technically he would just be one of many who had the faceless god within him.
That's a whole lot of interesting speculation.
Well, I want to add one more thing. My kid's stepfather has a sort of meta. My kid's stepfather, John. He has a meta theory, which is that throughout this whole thing, we've had these kids running around with no clear, apparent purpose to the story. Those kids, with the Stark kids and Jon Snow, and a few of these other youngsters are going to come into their own. I mean, I'm totally saying one way or the other, Jon Snow is making a play for the Iron Throne. He just is. Whether he even wants it or not, he's going to be forced to do it.
Actually, I just found something here on Sirio, the teacher. He referred to himself at one time as the first sort of Bravos, who is the chief protector of the ruler of Bravos. I don't think a faceless would have been that.
No?
Well, I don't know. Why not? I mean, that's the whole idea. Is that
we met him. He was working as a soldier. Sorry, go ahead, Rachel.
The idea is that they blend in with everyone else. I mean, they are ninjas in the sense of how a ninja is supposed to be, which is they're not necessarily supposed to be somebody covered in black who necessarily moves in the shadows. They're people who blend into a situation, conform to the situation, and jump to action when needed. That's what makes them such great assassins, is that they are able to then gain the trust of individuals. Why wouldn't you play somebody like that there in case the king got crazy?
Yeah.
Also, if you look at the timeline, there's something to think about. Jakim Hakar was in going north to the wall with them when they took area north. That would meant he would have to have been in chains before the whole takeover. So it couldn't have been.
Who knows?
I think it's an interesting thought either way. Moving on, we have one last topic, and I know Jim. Jim, do we have?
Technically, we have two, but we've already covered Grand Theft Auto with the rape and everything.
That's an old topic.
Yeah. But it keeps getting brought up. Let's mock it for a quick second. Ha ha ha! You guys are full of shit. Okay, let's moving on.
Yeah, there's no rape in Grand Theft Auto as a player option. Anyway,
the days of the WoW-style MMO are over, says H1Z1 John Smedley.
What does over mean in this context?
Well, he's talking about. He's labeling H1Z1 as an MMO, but rather than it being sort of like, it's more like a sessional MMO, and not sort of like the open, persistent world type of MMO that, you know, World of Warcraft, EverQuest, you know, those games are. I'm just going to have to say bullshit.
He's also saying that the average game session for this game is going to be about 45 minutes. So your character is going to live for about 45 minutes.
No, what I'm going to call bullshit, and I'm going to call bullshit on one thing that he said, was that he said that the reason why WoW isn't doing as well now as it was 4 years ago is because gamers are looking for those shorter sessions. They don't want games that you literally have to put hours upon hours upon hours in just to get anywhere. I'm going to call bullshit. I'm going to say the reason why WoW isn't doing so well anymore is because a lot of the design decisions that have been made since Ghostcrawler left the WoW development team have been bad, downright atrocious. Design decisions like changing the specialization trees, the way that that system works for your character, I find that is a much bigger contributing factor. I left WoW when Cataclysm hit simply because I hated the way that the new talent system worked. I hated the way that it removed a lot of choice in terms of customization.
Yes and no. I'm going to disagree with you.
They said that they revamped the whole system because the old system didn't leave a whole lot of choice, that a lot of players were just using cookie cutter specs. I'm going to say that the old system had more room for customization than the new system does, because the new system, essentially, you choose your tree. Like for priest, for example, because I play priests, you have discipline, holy, and shadow. And when you choose one of those specs, there's a lot of noise that is coming out of someone's background. When you choose one of those trees, you essentially get, 6 or 7 tiers worth of talents. Each tier has 3 talents to choose from. They cost 1 talent point to spec into. You only get to choose 1 talent per tier, and they're all named the same. The only difference is, depending on the specialization tree that you chose, the effects of those are slightly different. That is less customization, in my opinion.
Okay. This is where I'm going to disagree with you.
Whoa. Robot Nephenor.
Robot Nephenor?
Robot Nephenor. All right.
I'm a robot.
A lot of static and everything.
Yeah, you might want to try reconnecting. You might want to try reconnecting, Neff. I'll just observe that. Now, can I observe something?
You observe something, then I've got something on it.
Okay. I'm just going to say I've played many MMORPGs. I don't play them anymore, and I'm actually down with the reason of it's too much time. And if I could have session-oriented gaming that I knew would be a satisfying experience, and I could keep on my character and he doesn't have to die, that's why I would go. I'll point out that World of Warcraft has been eclipsed by non-MMORPGs in popularity, like League of Legends and stuff, and I think that is because some people are like, you know what, that was fun, but I can't keep running 12-hour sessions. And let me give me a game that's fast that I can get in and out and still enjoy it with my friends. That's a valid argument. I don't think it kills MMORPGs, but it is a valid perspective. It's my perspective.
I'm not saying it's not a valid perspective. However, I've been following Smedley's career since he was a executive producer back at Sony Online back in the World of Warcraft even came out. And his track record for success with games is pretty much zero, because every game he's gotten his hands in, after he's gotten his hands in it, tanked badly. So I don't think he really has a grasp of what gamers really want.
Okay, so he's not the expert to tell us why MMORPGs are dead.
Definitely not.
I'm going to bring
and
Nephenor in on here real quick because he wants to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nephenor.
Okay. First off, the comments I was having about the talent trees, they were a problem because when you wanted to do rating, you had to be as efficient as possible. You had to be top of your game, and as such, there was pretty much only one tree per spec that you could choose. So it ended up being cookie cutter, and it ended up being no choice. You wanted to play a rogue, you played this type. You wanted to be a mage, you played this type. Whatever it was, you had to follow that cookie cutter with the old style if you wanted to be top tier rating. Now, if you were just doing casual, yeah, you had choices. But if you were trying to be efficient, forget it. You followed the cookie cutter.
Well, I'm going to disagree with that because I did raid top tier. I was in a top 3 rating guild on Realm when I was playing on retail. We were acceptable losses on the Dalaran Realm Alliance side. We were top tier 10-man rating. I was second best disciplined PvE priest on Realm. So I mean, I wasn't casual, and most of our rating we did during Wrath of the Lich King, and that's because Wrath of the Lich King, when that hit, that was the only time in WoW history where you could say bring the player, not the class, or bring the player, not the spec. If you wanted to heal in a raid as discipline, you could do that. You weren't forced into the holy spec. If you wanted to DPS as a rogue, you could come as a combat rogue, an assassination rogue. Subtlety was a little kind of like, the subtlety kind of thing, that was still more PvP than it was PvE, but you could pull it off if you knew how to do a proper rotation correctly. If you wanted to DPS as a warrior, they introduced the talent in Fury, I believe it was, where you could dual wield 2-hand weapons, which was absolutely amazing. So now it wasn't just arms warriors that were great at PvE DPS. You could also PvE DPS as Fury, which was really great. There was a lot more choice, and my own discipline spec was not cookie cutter. There was a lot of stuff, like people were telling me to take reflective shields, and I was like, why would I take reflective shields? That's 2 points that I'm wasting in reflective shields because it doesn't fit my playstyle.
Because most of the time when I was dealing with people on it, it was you follow the cookie cutter. It may have had 1 or 2 points you can play with, but for the most part, it was follow this.
Well, I disagree, because when I was rating on Balnazar back in Burning Crusade, start of Wrath of the Lich King, it was Druid tanks were anathema. If you were lucky, you might be able to get in as DPS, but tanking as a Druid was no. Everybody said no, you can't get anywhere with a Druid tank. And my guild at the time, it's been forever since I was there. I can't remember their name, but we were actually getting into some of the top tier raids with Druid tanks. We were getting in there with some of the top tier raids with the specs. Everybody was saying, no, you stay away from this. This is crap, and we were proving them wrong. I was proving wrong the theory crafters on all those sites with my characters every fucking step of the way. And I've been saying for years, theory crafters are great. It's a great starting position, but after you get to a certain point, you got to think for yourself and figure out what works for you. And the theory crafters don't have a fucking clue.
No, I disagree with that. Theory crafting is the most important thing in WoW rating. Theory crafting doesn't just stop when you come up with a cookie cutter. Theory crafting keeps going on when you want to try this. You want to try that. You want to try that. You want to try this rotation rather than this rotation. You want to try this variation on this spec rather than that one. And theory crafting doesn't stop at, okay, we got into Nax, for instance, during Wrath of the Lich King. That it doesn't stop there.
But when I'm proving theory crafters wrong, when people are proving theory crafters wrong, I I have to disagree with that, because the theory crafters the whole time are saying, okay, this is best for this spec. Like a lot of the theory crafters were saying, with bear tanks, use rogue gear, and even avoid the tier sets that had strength. And I proved them wrong, because if you watched on Recount, you'd see that the bleeds were increased with strength far beyond with just regular attack power.
Yeah, but
there was actually more.
You're talking about idiots. You're talking about idiots. When I do theory crafting, I figure out what's best for
but
me.
these are yeah. But what I'm talking about,
style.
this is the end all be all. The one everybody says is the ultimate theory crafting site, which is elitistjerks.com, and I've proven them wrong.
Yeah, all right, my brain is full, guys. Do we have to keep? Sorry, my brain is full. Have we got anything more to say on spell engineering, or?
Well, I'm just gonna say this one last thing, and then we could start wrapping up if you guys want. During Wrath of the Lich King, raiding was absolutely great because it was a challenge. You had to work together as a raid. There was no such thing as LFR. Now, Cataclysm hit. They introduced LFR. Now the raids were balanced to fit random groups that didn't know each other. Before LFR, the only people who were doing top tier raids were guilds, and they were guild runs. They were players who played together. They knew each other. They knew each other's play style. They were comfortable with each other. They could communicate effectively with each other, and they downed bosses. Now, after LFR, all of the raids were balanced to allow random groups who don't know anything about each other. They don't know how each other plays. They don't communicate because there is no TeamSpeak or Ventrilo or Mumble. There is nothing for them to use to communicate except for typing in chat, which everybody knows if you raid, typing in chat takes you away from your rotation and fucks up your DPS. Since LFR, all of the raids were pretty much balanced so that anybody could face roll it. They casualized raiding, and that's why a lot of people left. That's why it went from 12 million subscribers all the way down to 6.8. And when Warlords of Draenor hit, they got a lot of people back. The subscriber count went back up to 10 million, but now it's dropping again because they're finding that the exact same thing is happening with the raids. They're just face rolling.
WoW went casual and it died.
Pretty much.
Well, ooh, that's a good line. That's a good line. It will never go away because it doesn't have to, but it can shrink. I mean, it doesn't have to die. It really doesn't. But it could shrink to 1/10 of its size and still exist.
And here's the thing, though. I mean, they still have like 4 or 5 expansions planned that they still want to do. So, I mean, you're still going to get subscriber numbers to go up with each new expansion initially just because players want to come back and see if they fixed any of the mistakes they made. But what we're seeing now after Warlords of Draenor, we saw that sort of initial jump back up to 10 million, and now it's starting to sink back down again because players realizing that Warlords of Draenor, it's not fixing the problems that they perceived in the game. So wrapping up, I'm going to go around the room real quick. Does anybody have any final thoughts on any of the topics? I'm going to start with Nefenor.
It was all good until the fire chew attacked.
The fire
God
chew.
damn it, Neff! You stole what I was gonna say. Shit.
The fire chew attacked.
Oh man. Okay. Well, now I'm gonna give Rachel some time to think up of a new zinger. I'm gonna go to Jim. Jim. Final thoughts.
I've got to say this, Smedley. I'm still pissed at you for Star Wars Galaxies.
Dean, final thoughts.
As far as GamerGate goes, what's his name? Is it Low Ping? I can't remember. Somebody just tweeted.
Low
He's right. Yeah, it is Low Ping. Low Ping just said it. As far as GamerGate's concerned, he's absolutely right. At this, we really don't need to do much of anything at this point outside of just existing, do we, GamerGate? No, we don't. We just have to continue to exist and actually stand by our fucking principles. And by the way, did I mention that Missy is the master? Just curious.
Fuck you, Dean.
Fuck you, Dean.
Rachel, have you come up with a zinger?
Yeah, I guess so. When I finally meet Christina Hoff Sommers, my life will be complete. Notice me, senpai. Notice me.
Since James Huff is not with us today, I am going to do the honor of speaking on his behalf for his final thoughts. Nothing. I have nothing to say. And my final thoughts is, as always, take the red pill.